From the mid-1970s into the early 1980s, Little House on the Prairie emerged as one of the most recognizable and emotionally resonant television dramas in American households. Airing from 1974 to 1983, the series adapted Laura Ingalls Wilder's semi-autobiographical frontier books into a long-running narrative centered on family, survival, and moral endurance. At a time when television was increasingly experimenting with genre and spectacle, this series stood apart for its restrained storytelling and focus on everyday struggles in a 19th-century rural community. Walnut Grove, the fictional Minnesota town, became more than just a setting. It functioned as a symbolic space where viewers could explore themes of hardship, compassion, and perseverance. The show's tone balanced warmth with realism, often shifting from gentle family moments to difficult storylines involving poverty, illness, and social injustice. Its appeal crossed generations, drawing in both younger audiences and adults who connected with its emotional sincerity. Over time, it became a defining example of network television that prioritized character-driven narratives over fast-paced drama or action-driven plots, establishing a legacy that still lingers in cultural memory. Walnut Grove as a fictional home and emotional anchor, Walnut Grove was not merely a backdrop, but a carefully constructed emotional landscape that shaped the entire identity of Little House on the Prairie. The town represented a microcosm of frontier life, where neighbors depended on one another for survival, support, and moral grounding. The Ingalls family, Charles, Caroline, Laura, Mary, and Carrie, anchored the series, embodying ideals of resilience and unity despite constant hardship. Their relationships with townsfolk like the Olisons and other recurring characters created a layered community dynamic that felt lived in and authentic. Episodes frequently revolved around shared challenges such as crop failures, school conflicts, medical emergencies, or moral dilemmas that tested communal bonds. What made Walnut Grove particularly compelling was its ability to shift between comfort and struggle within the same narrative space. It offered viewers a sense of stability while also confronting them with the fragility of that stability. This balance allowed the show to function both as comforting family television and as a reflective exploration of American frontier mythology, where survival depended as much on emotional strength as on physical endurance. Cast performances and Michael Landon's creative influence. At the center of the series stood Michael Landon, who portrayed Charles Ingalls while also serving as a writer, director, and executive producer for much of the show's run. His creative control significantly shaped the tone and direction of the series, allowing it to maintain a consistent emotional voice. Alongside him, Melissa Gilbert's portrayal of Laura Ingalls Wilder provided a youthful perspective that evolved from childhood innocence into adulthood maturity over the course of the series. The chemistry between the cast members contributed to the show's enduring appeal, giving viewers the impression of a real family growing and changing together. Supporting actors added depth to the community, each bringing unique storylines that expanded Walnut Grove's emotional range. However, Landon's multifaceted role also meant that creative decisions were often centralized, which influenced both storytelling consistency and behind-the-scenes dynamics. His vision leaned heavily toward moral storytelling, emphasizing redemption, empathy, and emotional resolution. This approach helped define the series' identity, but it also created pressure within production, as balancing artistic control with ensemble collaboration became an ongoing challenge throughout its long broadcast history. The dramatic finale and the destruction of Walnut Grove. The conclusion of Little House on the Prairie culminated in one of the most dramatic endings in television history, particularly through the 1984 TV movie, The Last Farewell. In this storyline, Walnut Grove faces a wealthy land developer intent on acquiring the town's property, forcing residents into an emotional and ethical crisis. Rather than allow the town to be taken and repurposed, the characters make the devastating decision to destroy their own homes. The resulting explosion of buildings, including the schoolhouse, church, and general store, serves as a symbolic act of defiance and closure. This moment shocked many viewers, not only because of its narrative intensity, but also because it represented a stark departure from the show's traditionally gentle tone. The destruction of Walnut Grove functioned as both a literal and metaphorical ending, signaling that the community could not survive under external pressures. Whether interpreted as a bold artistic statement or an emotionally overwhelming conclusion, the finale cemented itself in television history as an unforgettable farewell to a fictional world that had become deeply familiar to audiences over nearly a decade, ending a series and the decision behind closure. By the early 1980s, Little House on the Prairie had experienced a natural decline in viewership, a common trajectory for long-running network dramas. NBC ultimately decided to conclude the series, not due to controversy, but because its narrative arc had largely run its course after nearly a decade on air. However, the transition from ongoing series to conclusion was not abrupt. Instead, it evolved into a structured farewell that allowed creators to provide closure. Michael Landon, deeply invested in the show's identity, chose to shape the ending in a way that would leave a lasting emotional impact rather than allowing the series to fade quietly. The decision to incorporate the destruction of Walnut Grove reflected a desire for narrative finality, ensuring that the town would not be reused or repurposed in future productions. This approach created a sense of permanence in the series' conclusion. While some viewers found the ending surprisingly intense compared to the show's usual tone, others viewed it as a powerful statement about change, loss, and the inevitability of endings in both storytelling and life. Creative control, production tensions, and artistic direction. Behind the wholesome exterior of Little House on the Prairie, production was shaped by complex creative dynamics, particularly due to Michael Landon's extensive control over writing, directing, and producing responsibilities. His influence ensured a consistent vision, but also led to tensions with other creators and members of the production team. Early shifts in creative leadership, including differences with co-creator Ed Friendly, contributed to changes in tone and structure as the series evolved. As the show progressed, the balance between collaborative storytelling and centralized decision-making became increasingly delicate. While Landon's leadership helped maintain narrative coherence, it also concentrated authority in a way that occasionally created friction behind the scenes. These dynamics are not unusual in long-running television productions, especially those heavily driven by a single creative figure. Nonetheless, they shaped the working environment and influenced how stories were developed and executed. Despite internal challenges, the series maintained a strong production identity, continuing to deliver emotionally driven episodes that aligned with its established themes of family, morality, and resilience. Relationships, personal conflicts, and emotional complexity off-screen. The interpersonal relationships behind Little House on the Prairie added another layer of complexity to the show's history. While the cast often portrayed a unified and supportive community on screen, real-life dynamics were sometimes more complicated. Michael Landon's personal life, including his relationship changes during the later years of production, became a subject of attention and emotional strain among colleagues. Melissa Gilbert, who viewed Landon as a mentor and father figure, experienced a deeply personal sense of betrayal during this period, leading to a prolonged estrangement between them. Other cast members also navigated professional disagreements related to compensation, recognition, and creative direction, including Karen Grassel, who portrayed Caroline Ingalls. These tensions highlight the difference between on-screen harmony and off-screen reality, a common contrast in long-running ensemble productions. Despite these challenges, many of the relationships eventually softened over time, with reconciliation occurring in some cases before Landon's passing in 1991. The emotional complexity behind the scenes mirrors the show's thematic focus on forgiveness and human imperfection, reinforcing the idea that even idealized narratives are created by imperfect people. Groundbreaking storytelling and socially bold themes. Although often remembered for its nostalgic depiction of frontier life, Little House on the Prairie frequently engaged with difficult and socially relevant themes that were uncommon in family television of its era. The series addressed issues such as racism, addiction, disability, poverty, domestic violence, and illness, often framing them within emotionally charged standalone episodes. Stories like Sylvia and others dealing with prejudice or trauma challenged viewers to confront uncomfortable realities rather than avoiding them. This willingness to engage with serious subject matter distinguished the series from other contemporary family dramas, which often maintained lighter or more escapist tones. The show's moral framework did not simplify these issues, but instead explored their emotional and ethical complexity through character-driven narratives. By situating these themes within a frontier setting, the series connected historical struggles with modern social concerns, suggesting continuity in human experience across time periods. This approach contributed significantly to the show's cultural impact, demonstrating that family television could address difficult topics while still maintaining emotional accessibility and narrative coherence. Myth, memory, and the legacy of Walnut Grove. Over time, Little House on the Prairie developed a mythology that extended beyond its original broadcast. One of the most persistent narratives surrounding the series is the idea that the destruction of Walnut Grove was either censored or suppressed in reruns, when in reality, it continued to air but was often omitted in lighter daytime programming selections. This contributed to a gradual blending of fact and folklore around the series' ending. The dramatic nature of the finale also reinforced its legendary status, as viewers continued to discuss the emotional impact of the town's destruction decades later. The show's legacy is further shaped by its availability in syndication and its continued presence in cultural memory, where it is often associated with both nostalgia and emotional intensity. The combination of heartfelt storytelling and dramatic conclusion ensured that the series remained a frequent subject of retrospection. Its influence can still be seen in later family dramas that attempt to balance moral storytelling with emotionally complex narratives, proving that its impact extended far beyond its original airtime. Enduring cultural impact and emotional resonance. Decades after its final episode, Little House on the Prairie continues to hold a unique place in television history. Its enduring appeal lies not only in its depiction of frontier life, but also in its exploration of universal human experiences, such as loss, love, hardship, and community. The series demonstrated that television could be both comforting and challenging, offering stories that resonated emotionally while also addressing difficult realities. The final destruction of Walnut Grove remains one of the most memorable conclusions in television, symbolizing both an end and a transformation. Whether viewed as excessive or poetic, it reflects the show's willingness to embrace emotional intensity in service of narrative closure. Today, the series is often revisited not just for nostalgia but for its storytelling ambition and willingness to engage with complex themes. Its legacy persists because it treated its characters and audience with emotional seriousness, creating a world that felt both idealized and deeply human. In doing so, it secured its place as a lasting reference point in the evolution of American television drama.